Welcome to Sports CTO Talks. In today's episode, we will talk about revolutionizing athlete careers, how AI, algorithm based NIL valuations, and data driven brand partnerships are empowering athletes in digital age. In this podcast series, we would be connecting with industry leaders from the technology and sports world. I am Ami, your guide on this journey through amazing mind of sports and technology leaders. We will dive deep into discussions and innovations driving the industry, from AI to cloud, from cybersecurity to sustainability. If it is about sports tech, we are talking about it. It is a pleasure to welcome 𝗔𝗜 𝗡𝗜𝗟. I hope I've pronounced your name correctly.
No, that's perfect. I mean, no worries. A pleasure to meet you today and a pleasure to meet everyone today. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. 𝗔𝗜 is a business consultant with a strong foundation in engineering and deep passion for intersection of sports, data, and emerging technologies like AI and machine learning. He is the co-founder of 𝗔𝗜, a platform focused on transforming how talent is discovered, evaluated, and nurtured in sports. 𝗔𝗜 leverages data and technology to bring more transparency and accessibility into athlete scouting and development, helping bridge the gap between raw potential and real opportunity. With experience spanning consulting and product thinking, 𝗔𝗜 brings a unique perspective on how data driven decision making is reshaping the sports industry, from athlete performance and valuation to fan engagement and market dynamics. We welcome you to the podcast.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, that was a wonderful introduction. I feel like
Every
everything, like my whole experience was covered there, right? From start to finish. But
Thank you. It
thank you
means a
so much.
lot.
I appreciate that.
So my first question, 𝗔𝗜. To you is, how would you describe the shift, from traditional athlete careers to AI driven data powered careers in today's time?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ami. And again, it's a pleasure to really be on this podcast. Anytime there's an opportunity to talk about sports, to talk about what we're doing and how we're trying to assist athletes, and we're always ready to do that. And to your question, it's very simple. Over the years, traditional athlete careers, were built on just gut instinct, right? So the agents, the scouts will have to like know you. You have to know someone. It depends on who you know within your network. Scouts will watch the games. The coaches will make any subjective calls on if they want to sign you or not. And these athletes really like there was no real sense of your market value. How are you valued as an athlete? Today, we're not trying to move towards more objective and data-backed systems, right? Every stat, every social media interaction, every performance metric becomes a data point, right? Where it really creates a real-time understanding of what you're valued at based on these different things that you do. Athletes now have this transparency into their worth, right? Into understanding how they can use this valuation that they know now to make different strategic decisions about their careers. Instead of like just hoping that someone they know will take them to that next level, right? Or hoping someone they know notices them, someone they know comes to their game, they can now use their own data, take advantage of that, and own their future. And that's the way the world is going to go now.
Okay. So when you're talking about that, what has inspired you to work on algorithms based
Yeah.
NIL valuation system?
And that one is very easy, right? Before we started the podcast, we were talking a little bit that this is really from like our personal experience. The co-founders, the founders here at 𝗔𝗓 𝗡𝗜𝗟, myself, especially specifically, right? I grew up playing sports. I grew up as a soccer player. I grew up playing basketball. I had swimming lessons. I played tennis. Like these are all things I grew up doing. And specifically, right, I focused on basketball and soccer a lot in Nigeria. And I thought that I could translate this experience that I had there to college athletics when I moved here after high school in Nigeria. But navigating that is not easy in a new space, right? I didn't know what I was valued at. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't really understand like how I compared to the athletes here. But I mean, at the end of the day, right, that sports dream kind of died there. But I ended up graduating with my engineering degree. Now, it's all about how can I bridge or merge my passion, right, and my like experience that I have now. And that is what kind of started and bubbled this idea. That really started the inspiration to this. But as we started as a startup, we kept asking the industry questions, and we found out that now in this day of NIL, right, we see athletes as signing terrible deals, right, because they have no idea what they're actually worth. A soccer player, a American football player, like any type of player, right, with 500K engaged followers might take a $500 campaign because they don't understand that like you should really be getting closer to 5,000. With that sort of engagement in an active demographic, the market is looking for an athlete like you. The brand is looking for that type of athlete as well. And the NIL market right now is just opaque. There's no standardization, right? And we built 𝗔𝗓 𝗡𝗜𝗟, right, to give that athlete a real dollar valuation. But aside from that, it's like there is no understanding and no standard right now. How can we give better understanding to these athletes to empower them to make better decisions?
Okay. So how exactly is AI changing the way athletes discovered and are valued today? Because AI is playing a very integral part and is a very important part in today's sports ecosystem.
Yeah,
So, and how is it changing?
that's a good point too, right? And we were saying too, like AI is just such a big portion now of like our industry, our society, and the way things are going. So whether we like it or not, we need to start creating systems that adopt or use AI enabled. And I'm not saying like it needs to take over all the jobs. I don't think that. I think this is like an assistant that you can actually use to aid the work that we're already doing. So think about it, right? AI processes massive data sets that humans can't really handle in such a short time. So, like, if you're trying to like take a look at billions, millions of athletes in different systems, right? In like India, for example, in Nigeria, like many athletes that are falling through the cracks, right? Because no one can really understand the data sets that they have there, or like there hasn't been enough connection or infrastructure made to focus on that data set. AI is emphasizing the importance of that, right? Where we're now able to look at, like I mentioned, your performance stats, your social media following, right? Engagement rates, right? Your popularity, competition level. These are all things that are data available to athletes now that AI would be able to break down and understand and provide insights on. Whereas with traditional scouting, right, they might miss some player like a D1 or a D2 basketball player, right, with incredible social engagement because it may not be worth something to them. But that is who a brand could be looking for. And that player with a lot of engagement in D2 could be worth more than maybe a D1 athlete, for example. AI doesn't have as much of those blind spots as the traditional methods may have. It still has its issues, but some of those issues are reduced at the very least.
So when you're talking about the data, what data points actually matter when determining an athlete's NIL value?
That's a good one. I mentioned a bunch of different variables that could be looked at. For an athlete's NIL value, for example, what we do with Prodispheres, we provide something called a Prodis score. So we think of this like a credit score, right? But for an athlete now, right? For your NIL market value. We like take a look at four core pillars there, right? We from all the data we gather to get your NIL value, we take a look at your athletic performance. Your on-field performance is very much still important. That's we're not saying you shouldn't be a good athlete, right? Ronaldo and Messi gained so much branding, right? Because they are so good. LeBron is so good on the field, so he has the opportunity to earn a lot outside, right? Your social media presence also is very much important, right? Because that is what enables this marketability. Your audience, right? Who are the people that are coming to look at your content to watch you? Those are important, as well as your market timing. All of these four core pillars, right, is very important individually, but the combination, right, of those pillars matter, right? A track athlete with 20,000 followers might be worth more than a football player with 100K followers because that track athlete audience might be more important to a certain brand. It might be around the demographic that the brand wants to reach. So they are more interested in that track athlete. So we're not saying both players are not valuable, but it's how much that matters to a brand, right? These are the key things. That's why I said it's the combination of everything that matters.
Okay. So, like, do you think that AI can remove the bias from athlete valuation and scouting?
It can, to say remove completely, that might be that's hard, right?
Correct.
Like, because AI still uses like human like context, right, to get its outputs. So yes, it can reduce certain biases 100%, and that is why we're using it, right? And that's the whole point. That's the assistance to what I mentioned before, is to reduce certain biases by focusing on like objective performance metrics, right? Human like I is just so like like subjective. Like we are going to have, whether we like it or not, we have our own like subjective biases sometimes. And it is like here where AI can really come into support, where we can now focus on these objective metrics, your performance metrics, but it can also, like I said, perpetrate biases, right? If the training data itself reflects those historical like biases that I mentioned from like the human context, right? It is important for us to separate that and to remove it from the data when we're doing our processing. The key at the end of the day is transparency, right? The athletes need to understand, right, exactly how your score is calculated so they can optimize their own value. So we showed like on our platform at the very least, we give them a breakdown on these are the four different sections we're looking at. This is how they're all four of them are growing individually. This is the overall score and value they get. So it is the transparency for them to understand, okay, this is what is taken into account. These are the areas I can improve upon to gain and improve my overall value.
So has, how has NIL changed the financial landscape for athletes, especially,
Yeah.
when we talk about the grassroots levels?
Oh, that that is one of the biggest key proponents, right? NIL, excuse me. NIL is all about, as the name says, the full name is name, image, and likeness. Around the world, outside of America, like this is not a new concept, right? It's branding and marketing for a player. In the UK, for example, a 16-year-old will be able to gain endorsement as needed. Like once a brand comes to him to establish that communication, you can get money based on that. And that is the market that is now growing here in America. Is the fact that NIL now has like made it easier for athletes like from different levels now to earn money based on their own image, right? Before, maybe only the really top tier athletes in major sports could really earn, right? And those are like not official earnings. So those are like under the table things that were done in the past, like, right, that we're moving away from now in order to legalize this like earning for these athletes. Like a player should be able to go to a signing, do autograph signing at maybe a Wendy's if they want. A local shop should be able to like look at their favorite player and to come and do a little open day and show up there where fans can come and take pictures and it can gain money from that based on their own image. So now like a local high school swimmer with great content could earn a meaningful income before they get to the professional level. And it's important to state this distinction because less than 1% of high school players make it to the professional level. If you've given them an opportunity to earn before they have to make that decision to switch, it would not be as big of a it may not be as big of a life-changing decision anymore to drop the sport or to pivot to something else, right? When that time comes. But most athletes don't know their value, right? They don't know how to access their opportunities, and that's the gap we're trying to fill.
So, like, NIL is still not structured. So, what is
Yeah,
the role of social media into this? Like, you talk about Insta, you talk about TikTok. Like, there are millions of followers certain athletes have, and there are few athletes who do not have followers. So, what role, the social media plays in helping?
right. And it goes back to one of those four pillars that I mentioned before, right? The social media presence. That in the day and age that we're at, a lot of people are online. You can't run away from it, right? So it is not a matter of but how do you manage your image, right? It is very, very important to understand that social media, the Instagram, the Twitters, the TikToks, athletes are getting discovered on there, but also you're crafting your image, right? I used Ronaldo and Messi as a good example, like before. These are high performing athletes and they are very high earning brand marketing athletes too. But I would say Ronaldo maybe is just a little bit ahead when it comes to that branding side. And you can tell because it's also like his Instagram has 700 million followers, right?
Yes.
The way he's captured his branding from the moment he jumped out, like as a young star, it's very different from the way Messi, of course, because of how talented he is, a lot of brands are still going to flock to him. He'll still earn a lot of money. That's why I said your on-field performance matters. But how do you use your social media, your own presence to help boost that a little bit? Crafting this nice image for yourself, you set a presence, you engage with your fans right online. These are things that matter to brands because they know you have a core demographic that's always ready to watch and listen to you. So brands will want to flock to you to want to like sponsor you. And that is the key there.
Okay. And on the parallel side, what are the biggest mistakes or what observations you have come through from your experience that athletes make while trying to monetize their own personal brands?
Yeah. And that's a really good one. And I think there are three big ones I'll kind of mention, based on my experience from my time and also from like kind of the conversations we're still seeing is the first thing is athletes undervalue themselves, right? And I want to like let athletes know you have done some amazing things already. You've put in some great work, right? In high school, in college, that you could have definitely taken advantage on. And because they undervalue themselves, it leads to the next biggest problem, which is the mistake is they accept any deal that comes along. I'm not saying don't accept deals, but be very strategic, right? About what brand do I want to align my value with, right? These are things athletes, the presence you want to start thinking of is what values do I want to portray? What brand do I want to align myself with, right? Do I want to be seen as someone who is endorsing this over that? These are things athletes like at a younger age have to start thinking about now. And the final thing is only focusing on just follower counts. I said, yeah, Ronaldo has 700 million followers, but it's not just about that. It's the engagement quality, right? Are the fans actually liking your post? Are you creating content? Like, Messi and Ronaldo released a Louis Vuitton post, and that had like 1 million likes in like
Yes.
how many seconds, right? That is, you see, quality of engagement. That is what brands want to see. Athletes need to just understand their true market value before they start negotiating anything. And once you understand that, it can help guide these conversations a lot better.
So when you're talking about brands, leaving the known ones, forget Ronaldo, forget Messi. How are brands using the data today to choose the right athletes for partnerships?
So, and for like we're saying, forget the high level
Hmm.
athletes, right? And that is why it's important to understand it's not just about follower counts, right? Brands are moving beyond that. They're like, it's not just about raw follower counts, but like I mentioned, the audience quality, right? Engagement rate, the demographic alignment, right? Those are like the core things the brands are looking for. So as I've said through our conversation, right, is okay, yeah, you have this many thousands of followers. But are they actually liking your posts, right? Are they going to be commenting on your post when you post something? These are things that are like brands actually want to see. What is that engagement, right? Are your fans, right? And that's why I said it's what do you want to align yourself with? Because what you align yourself with will determine the type of demographic, the fans that you have, right? So this is important to what brands want to see. They want like athletes that basically like their athletes whose audiences really right match their target customers, not just big numbers. A small mom and pop shop that is in my area in Florida right now would not be looking for an athlete or for some customer that is all the way in California or in India. No, that's not their target market, right? They're not big. They want someone who is based in the local Florida states that can come to their shop right down the street to come and support them. Then you now know, okay, there is a bigger brand that will serve a bigger population, right? This is how brands are thinking about it. So depending on who you're working with, the type of campaign you're working on, that would determine specifically, right, who you want to like work with.
So how do you see the algorithm-based athlete valuation evolving in the next 3 to 5 years, where AI is also playing a critical role?
Oh, that's a wonderful one. And I mean, some of it is of course based on how we are also seeing ourselves progressing, but as well, like in general, like how the industry is progressing. It's in the end of the day, it's going to get to real-time pricing that updates constantly. So right now, we wait till the end of the season to understand how much the player has been valued over the whole course of the season. This would take a change into real-time updates. Every second, with every little new data points and new information, your valuation is going to see a change, right? Constantly updating so you have the most real-time information right in front of you, right? The predictive modeling in general, right, that forecasts the future value. There's going to be more integration with actual, like with full deal marketplaces. Now, there's also new other things like Kalshi that is coming into play. other ways you can like think of stock market for athlete valuation, right? This is live pricing that reflects the market's real-time market demand of that specific athlete.
So how can AI eventually predict an athlete's future market value, or can it, and can it also predict the career trajectory of athletes?
That is the big point there, right? Insights from the data. And absolutely, from our own tests, right, we're seeing like early indicators already, right? Your social media growth rates over time, the performance trends over time, right? Over your different years of data, right? This is important. Engagement patterns. We are seeing all of these things that eventually AI can identify breakout potential before it's even obvious to human scouts. And on a minor level, we're already doing this like currently. There are certain video games that have young potential stars, real potential stars that identifies them already as future superstars. So these are video games that have some model that is doing this. AI is definitely building on top of that. We can already identify from the more data we have, the better it is going to be able to identify these potential breakout stars, right? Before it's obvious to the human scouts. Help them and point them to these people. Then the humans, I don't want to take away the human eye element. That is still very much important because any game, any sport, it's all about how beautiful it is to the eyes to watch, right? Regardless of how you want to look at it. So the human eye element is important. But now you have guides that can help your decision as you try to make them.
So, from your analysis across athletes, how much variation do you see in valuation for players, with similar performance stats, and what factors usually explain the gap?
So, those are two good questions combined in one, right? I would say like variation, there's going to be huge variations, right? It's just we see like 300 to 500% differences sometimes between athletes with identical performance stats. It's like the gap, right, usually comes from like that social presence, right? The audience demographics, especially like it's now that social media is really coming into play, right? It's a new thing that's now entering more in social media has been a thing, but it is now gaining more importance and relevance. And that's the main area that we're seeing right now is making sure like you're producing the right content, right? You're going to the right audience, you're introducing yourself like in the market like appropriately. Like two identical like football or tennis players can have completely different NIL values just based on their digital footprints. So that is like the key element now that's getting like into play that players in general like have to understand. This is based on your image. Do things that boost your image positively.
So, based on the data, like what percentage of an athlete's NIL value typically comes from on-field performances versus off-field factors? Like, it can be social presence, as you are saying, it can
Mhm.
be audience engagement. So, what, like, if you could?
And I would say, I guess, full transparency too, because this is part of what we look at for our own breakdown, right? Like the simplest way I'll say it is, of course, it varies by sport, by level, but generally what we're seeing is 40% of your entire, right, I'll say valuation is dependent on what you do on the field. The remaining 60% is off-field factors for like the college at the for collegiate level at the very least. Now, when it comes to professional level, that flips, right? Your performance becomes way more important. That becomes up to 60%. Like you're professional. People want to see quality at the end of the day. They want to see
Yes.
that you're a very good like athlete, like point blank. So that becomes more dominant. But your social presence, right, is now just slowly increasing and becoming more important across all levels. Now, like, if you're a player that has some level of social media presence, teams are willing to hold on to you more just because you're giving
Yes.
them more engagement outside. Like, that is a big fan engagement is a big earner, right, for sports, for spectator sports that everyone needs to be watching. So the more you're able to keep the audience on you now across all levels, the better it is for the school, for the organization, for the team that's trying to like employ like your services. Now, it is still important to maintain the athletic performance is ever constant. You need to be showing your full talent on your field, on your court, on your whatever like form of gameplay to make sure that like the brands want to be associated with success, whether you like it or not. Think of F1, Formula One, for example. The winning car usually has the most sponsorship on it. Like that's how it is. People want to be associated with success.
Yes. Agree. So, like, with your experience, what is one piece of advice you would give athletes entering the new digital ecosystem right now, where NIL is a part of it?
Uh, I would say I think summation of everything I've said is before anyone else can tell you what you're worth, know your own value. That is my bottom line is get a baseline understanding of what you're valued at, understand what drives this valuation, and make your decisions right about building your brand based on your data, not just guesswork now.
Perfect. Ibozi, we'll move on to the next segment of the podcast. That's the rapid fire round. I'll
Okay.
ask you a few questions and you'll have to be quick in answering.
Okay.
It's one word
Okay.
or one sentence max.
All right, one word or one sentence. All right.
Yes.
You're not going to allow any explanation. That's no problem. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Perfect. Your favorite all-time player?
Favorite all-time player, Cristiano Ronaldo.
AI or human scouts? Who wins long term?
AI for discovery, humans for relationship.
Okay. Performance or personal brand? What matters more today?
Today, personal brand for monetization, of course, and performance for longevity.
One underrated metric that defines an athlete's real value.
Your audience demographic concentration, very much important.
Brand deals or equity partnerships? What is a smarter play?
For athletes who are definitely long-term, equity partnerships make sense, but most athletes need cash now, so brand deals make more sense. Like,
Okay.
sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. One skill every athlete must learn beyond sports.
Content, your content
Yes.
creation, content creation.
True.
The
True.
tell your story with before anyone helps you do that. So it helps you connect to your fans appropriately.
Perfect. We'll move on to the next segment. There is one question which you will have to answer only in 30 seconds.
Okay.
What is
Okay.
the role of AI in revolutionizing athlete careers today? Is it more about, better valuation, faster discovery, or smarter brand partnerships?
I would say primary role is transparency. For the first time, like in sports history, athletes have some objective data about their market value. Their brands have clear metrics for partnership decisions, and scouts, coaches, agents can discover talent that traditional methods miss. So it's not replacing human judgment, it's giving everyone better information to make these smarter decisions. The revolution isn't in the technology, right, itself, but it's about giving access to for career changing information that was previously only available to elite athletes with elite representation.
Perfect. Thank you, Bose, for your time and the wonderful discussion what we had today.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you guys here for giving us the opportunity, to talk about sports, something that we're all passionate about and we love. So it's a pleasure to discuss with anyone. Of course, if there are any questions, let them not hesitate to reach out to me, reach out to us at Protosphere.
Absolutely. So everyone, let's stay connected for more and better understanding about sports and technology. If you have anything or if you are building anything in sports and technology and want to explore ideas, strategy or technology support, please feel free to connect with Iboze or me in the chat. And don't forget to share this episode with all the people who love and sports technology. We will meet in the next episode next week. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep exploring.